How the Reynoldsburg School District Got Its Shape, Part 8, 1973 through 1979, The Comedy of the Common Areas. As a reminder, here's what the boundaries of the Reynoldsburg City School District looked like in August 2025. Where we left off in Part 7, the city of Reynoldsburg was on the verge of annexing its way into a neighboring school district, specifically the Pickerington School District. After all, the city had already made one attempt at annexing some of Violet Township in Fairfield County in 1971 as part of their master plan. The Violet Township trustees had said no, but for the rest of that decade and beyond, the Reynoldsburg city government would keep trying to get hold of some acreage in the northwest corner of Violet Township like an animated rabbit or leprechaun on a serial quest. 1973 to 1974. Mirror image, Minnesota, Fairfield County Fantail. The map below shows the boundaries of the city of Reynoldsburg and the Reynoldsburg School District in 1973. The most recently annexed area at this point was at the southeast corner of the city in the Tri-County area where Franklin, Fairfield, and Licking County meet. This area contains the present-day neighborhoods along Palmer Road, Slate Ridge Boulevard, and Farmsbury Drive. You may have noticed that where Palmer Road takes a bend near the western edge of the tract, there is a triangle-like projection. Specifically, it's 7800 Palmer Road, but to me, it looks like a big tooth in the underslung lower jaw of a Muppet monster, so I'll refer to this tract as Snaggletooth. The Snaggletooth tract had begun the annexation process in October of 1972, and by March of 1973, it had been approved by the Franklin County Commissioners and by the Reynoldsburg City Council. In contrast, it was slower going for a proposed annexation immediately to the west, which had begun the process at around the same time. This parcel is shaped somewhat like the state of Minnesota, but with its horns pointing to the west instead of to the east. Slashing through it from northwest to southeast is Lancaster Avenue, aka Baltimore Reynoldsburg Road, aka Route 256, just before it dives into Fairfield County on its way to Interstate 70 in Pickerington. Mirror image, Minnesota is bounded on the west by Blacklick Creek, on the south by the Franklin-Fairfield County line, and on the east by the Snaggletooth tract. On its northeast side, in 1973, it was bounded by more of Reynoldsburg, the present-day location of the Cherry Brook neighborhood and the Livingston House. On the northwest side, located at the present-day 5 Points intersection of Livingston Avenue, Lancaster Avenue, Graham Road, and Slate Ridge Boulevard, there was nothing but more of Truro Township until you hit the southern border of the city right after the Silent Home Cemetery. In December 1972, Mayor Twyford and Council President Dougherty had offered some friendly advice to the petitioners. Franklin County Commissioners might not take kindly to a proposal that would leave this area of Truro Township completely encircled by the city of Reynoldsburg. Maybe, they suggested, if it could be adjusted a little bit to include some more of that Truro Township island, it would be viewed more favorably by the commissioners. Now, given that one such island had already been created in 1966 along East Main Street, this objection might not sound like a big deal, but just because the commissioners had allowed one island to be created, that didn't mean they would be keen to do it again. The petitioners, an outfit by the name of Livingston Park Ltd., took the advice. This annexation proposal goes dark for almost a year. When it finally resurfaces in November 1973, it has undergone a few adjustments. Take a look at the newer version here. First, to get around the issue of creating a Truro Township island, the western border of Mirror Image, Minnesota is no longer the center line of Blacklick Creek. Instead, it's the eastern shore of Blacklick Creek. See the little strip of not to be annexed Truro Township snaking its way along the western edge of Minnesota and then taking a sharp turn to follow Livingston Avenue towards Lancaster Avenue? Yeah, we might have to zoom in here. Let's take a look. Yeah, there, see? Hey, the same gambit had worked back in the 1950s, for a little while at least, to argue that the northern and southern halves of Truro Township School District were one contiguous piece of land connected by the western bank of Big Walnut Creek. Of course, in that case, the muddy strip had connected two larger areas. In this case, it just meanders a few hundred feet before coming to an abrupt end. But technically, yes, the new proposal would not create an island of Truro Township surrounded only by the city of Reynoldsburg. In addition, the size of what would have been a township island has been reduced by looping in the triangle at the present-day 5 Points area where Lancaster Avenue and Graham Road meet. This would have the additional benefit of giving the city control over more of that challenging intersection. So yeah, there it is. Second, a little triangle just shy of an acre in area has been added along the Franklin-Fairfield County line. This triangle would have been the southwest corner of the Snaggletooth track had it not been separated from it by Lancaster Avenue. So right here. The triangle was the property of one Harvey Beck, who owned the southernmost 80 acres of the Snaggletooth tract. But this triangle, cut off from the rest of Beck's property, has been left out of that annexation. Now, it's getting picked up in the neighboring annexation rather than leaving a tiny triangular patch of Truro Township boxed in by the city of Reynoldsburg and Violet Township. If you walk from the BB Bop on Route 256 and cross the street to the Chipotle, you'll be walking across this mysterious triangle. How mysterious is it? Even the Franklin County Auditor doesn't know what to do with it. If you click on the parcel in their online parcel viewer, you get the message, sorry, we're not able to locate this data for parcel number VNP known. Finally, if you look closely, you might just catch another adjustment. See it? Yes, what was originally a 77-acre annexation of Mirror Image, Minnesota, has become a 145 dumbbell-shaped annexation that includes 68 acres of soon-to-be tax-rich land along Route 256. The area starts out small at that added triangle of land where Route 256 crosses the Fairfield County line, then spreads out like a fantail as it approaches I-70. So there it is, from all the way from here to Farmsbury Drive to the freeway. The Violet Township trustees smelled a rat. In 1971, they had given an emphatic no to letting Reynoldsburg annex all of Violet Township north of the freeway. So what exactly did Reynoldsburg think it was doing now? One of the trustees had a suspicion. As reported in the Columbus Dispatch, Neil A. Weaver, chairman of the Violet Township trustees, said the annexation was drawn up to include more acres in Franklin County so that the commissioners in that county would be the body to hear the proposal. In other words, if Reynoldsburg couldn't get a yes from the Fairfield County commissioners, maybe they'd have better luck with the ones in Franklin County. They just needed to annex an area that included parts of each county and more of the latter than the former. And now that the last piece of Truro Township touching Fairfield County was in play, they had seized their chance. The petitioner's lawyer confirmed as much in an article in the Reynoldsburg Reporter, stating that he had intended to request just the annexation of a 76-acre tract in Franklin County, but said several Reynoldsburg councilmen and officials asked him to include the Fairfield County property in the petition. But just having more of the acreage might not be enough. The Reporter article again. According to state laws, the county in which the majority of the registered voters live, or the county in which most of the land lies, is the county in which the annexation request is heard by the Board of Commissioners. So, there were two ways to meet the requirement. Which one should be given precedence in this case? As it happened, Reynoldsburg had prepared for both possibilities. This newer petition had been filed not by Livingston Park Ltd., but instead by none other than Harvey Beck. He didn't actually live anywhere in the 77 Truro Township acres, but he did own those 80 acres in the Tri-County Snaggletooth tract, one little piece of which had been added to the present proposed annexation. That gave Franklin County the majority over Fairfield County by a ratio of 1-0. So Reynoldsburg had finally gotten an annexation case for Fairfield County before a more sympathetic audience in Franklin County, thanks to the cooperation of Harvey Beck and his 0.7 acres. But their cleverness didn't land with the Franklin County Commissioners either. In November 1973, they rejected the annexation, calling it a tax grab. So the Livingston Park folks took all the Fairfield County stuff out of their petition and tried once again. The following February, they finally got the nod from the Franklin County Commissioners. But in the meantime, the petitioners for the entire 145-acre annexation had filed an appeal. And this time, they were able to convince those same commissioners to approve the transfer. Yes, both the Fairfield part and the already approved Truro part. The Reynoldsburg City Council voted to approve both annexations, just to be on the safe side. As the headline here reads, Reynoldsburg annexes land, some twice. And as for the school district that the 68 acres in Fairfield County would belong to, they stayed in the Pickerington local school district. It seems like the Reynoldsburg School Board just didn't get around to asking the state board to make the transfer, at least not yet. So the Fairfield County Fantail became the City of Reynoldsburg's first common area, territory within the city limits that were not part of that city's associated school district. In contrast, the city of Columbus, by that time, had racked up about a dozen common areas in the Reynoldsburg School District alone. 1962 through 1974. Lots in common. In fact, it was the Columbus School District whose development led to the coining of the term common area. Back in 1957, during the fight over those 2,700 newly annexed acres of Whitehall City School District, a writer from the Columbus Dispatch imagined a future featuring such areas. If Columbus is denied the school area, and a similar stand should be taken whenever other territory is annexed, the city of Columbus could wind up with a half dozen or more school districts partially within its corporate limits. By the mid-1960s, 10 years after Brown versus Board of Education, the prediction was coming true. It was becoming less of an attraction for a new housing development to be in the Columbus School District and more desirable to be in a suburban one. Increasingly, the city of Columbus and the Columbus School Board were taking the stance that territories annexed to the city could stay in their existing school districts. This was good for the city, since it removed one source of objection to an annexation, It was getting to be good for the Columbus School District as well. Levies were getting harder to pass, so taking on fewer school-age populations was the path of less resistance. We've already encountered a few of the city of Columbus's common areas. 400 acres on the north side of East Broad Street. This went to Jefferson Local Schools in 1962. Over here. The tract containing Kings Charter Road and Balsam Drive, 39 acres, which was in Reynoldsburg City Schools, 1964. The Strawberry Hill Road area, 6 acres, Reynoldsburg Schools, 1964. At the northeast corner of East Broad Street and Reynoldsburg New Albany Road, the western trapezoid of present-day Reynoldsburg Village, 25 acres to Reynoldsburg City Schools, 1970. And south of Interstate 70, the 70-acre block along Toosing Road, Reynoldsburg City Schools, 1973. And in this map here, the areas common to the city of Columbus and Reynoldsburg City School District are shown in this light blue color. Also visible in the map are a few other common areas that the city of Columbus annexed along the way, seemingly without any fuss. An area containing Red Coach Lane, Boar Avenue, and some of Hunt Valley. 46 acres, Reynoldsburg City Schools, 1964. So in this area here, the McNaughton Woods Apartments on McNaughton Road between Main Street and Livingston Avenue. 22 acres, Reynoldsburg City Schools, 1964. Right here. Just south of Broad Street, an area that now hosts a fire station. 9 acres, Reynoldsburg City Schools, 1968. So, right here. Between East Main and Livingston Avenue, wrapping around the McNaughton Woods complex, the neighborhood of Idlewild Manor developed in 1923. 147 acres, Reynoldsburg City Schools, 1969. And here's an ad from the Columbus Dispatch in 1923 as this development was going in. Beautiful Idlewild Manor, the addition suburban, east, right in the path of development. Big sale of 1 to 4 acre tracts. Gigantic opening Saturday, Sunday, May 5th and 6th. And in the finer print here, a special offer. We will give absolutely free a 2-pound carton of pure granulated cane sugar to every white adult who visits Idlewild and registers his or her name and address. And then finally, about 5 acres at the westernmost boundary of the city, East Main Street, a strip shopping center that features Delaney's Diner. 5 acres, Reynoldsburg City Schools, 1972. So right there. There's one more common area on the map that the city of Columbus annexed after all the others I listed. It's 5 acres on the east side of McNaughton Road, consisting mostly of the Kinver Edge Way neighborhood. This parcel flipped to Columbus in 1976, but I included it here because that bicentennial year of 1976 takes us back to the city of Reynoldsburg, which was about to get a second common area of its own. But first, here is that Kinver Edge neighborhood area. 1976. Strips forever. The mangled hourglass that was Mirror Image, Minnesota, and the Fairfield County fantail was not only an example of a city annexing an area with only a tenuous geographic connection to its existing territory, it wasn't even the only example of Reynoldsburg doing that. Remember the Inez Woods tract in 1963? Those kinds of strip annexations were starting to test people's patience. Not too long after the Fairfield County annexation, a big project in Licking County was breaking ground. Off East Main Street, about a mile to the east, not 1, but 2 state facilities were going in. The Ohio Department of Agriculture Laboratory and the State Fire Training Academy. They would be needing water. I mean, come on, we're talking about growing crops and putting out fires, right? For 20 years, the city of Columbus had been pursuing a winning strategy of making annexation a condition of providing water to parts of the surrounding suburbs. But that wouldn't be so straightforward this time. Lying between the city of Columbus and the complex was the city of Reynoldsburg, which had been able to supply its own water for all these years. So clearly, it was Reynoldsburg that was in a better position to hydrate the Ag Lab and Fire Academy. Or at least they would have been if their wells had been able to keep up with the growing demand. Located near present-day JFK Park, those wells had been running dry more and more often until finally Reynoldsburg cut a deal in 1974 to buy its water from the city of Columbus. So maybe it was Columbus that was in a better position to hydrate the Ag Lab and Fire Academy. The city of Reynoldsburg was like, no, we got this. But there was another little complication. The site wasn't contiguous with the city anywhere. It sat so far to the east that it wasn't even in Reynoldsburg Schools territory. To make the annexation work, Reynoldsburg was going to need to annex almost a mile of territory along East Main Street to connect the Ag Lab and Fire Academy with the rest of the city. So in 1976, that's what they did. In the map below, the Ag Lab sits in a parcel on the east side of the newly expanded city of Reynoldsburg, shaped like a horse's nose bag. Running between it and the rest of the city, there's a parcel of land shaped like a receiver on a really blocky 1970s era cradle-type telephone. Opponents accused the city of doing another strip annexation. But as far as strips go, this one is fairly wide. Here's the contiguity requirement that goes into annexation ordinances these days. Quote, the area proposed for annexation shares a contiguous boundary with the municipal corporation to which annexation is proposed for a continuous length of at least 5% of the perimeter of the territory proposed for annexation. But in this case, that number is about 20%. Even so, some considered this to be a sketchy strip annexation by the city. But what about the school district? The nose bag shared about 30% of its perimeter with that of the Reynoldsburg School District. However, this area remained a part of the Southwest Licking School District. It seems like the Reynoldsburg School Board just didn't get around to asking the state board to make the transfer, at least not yet. So the Ag Lab and Fire Academy became the city of Reynoldsburg's second common area. Oh, and one last thing. Shortly after pulling off that 363-acre annexation, the city of Reynoldsburg went ahead and annexed the bank of Blacklick Creek that they had taken such pains to exclude from the annexation of Mirror Image, Minnesota. You might need to zoom in to see that one. 1979, Bryce Road Slalom. There's one more adjustment regarding the Reynoldsburg and Columbus school districts worth noting before we leave the 1970s. During the turf war in the 1960s over the area between Rose Hill Road and Bryce Road north of East Main Street, Bryce Road itself didn't extend very far north. Even the ballot language of 1967 that transferred most of the Old Orchard area to Columbus schools referred to a line projecting north as an extension of Bryce Road, rather than just Bryce Road. When Bryce Road was extended and the area was platted for a housing development, for whatever reason, northbound Bryce Road swerved left at Red Coach Lane into the city of Columbus, and then swerved right again a little before Rosedale Avenue back into the city of Reynoldsburg. Inconveniently, the straight north-south city boundary at the re-entry point divided two households, one on either side of Bryce Road, so that each one lay partially in Columbus and partially in Reynoldsburg, and therefore partially in the Columbus School District and partially in the Reynoldsburg School District. Rather than go through the red tape of officially creating two more common areas, one for Columbus and one for Reynoldsburg, it seems to have been more convenient to adjust the city boundaries so that each household was in one city or the other. And the result is shown in this map here. Boundary check, 1979. The city of Reynoldsburg had finally grown beyond the borders of the Reynoldsburg City School District, with one annexation that reached into Fairfield County and another that crossed Taylor Road to push farther into Licking County than the city had done before. It also continued to add acreage within the school district. So 2.4 acres just south of the Silent Home Cemetery in 1964, around here. The Taylor Woods neighborhood, 179 acres in 1976. Another smaller Tetris piece, this one shaped like a Tetris Z on the north side of East Main Street. So there it is. Less than a quarter mile from the Franklin-Licking County line. 6.9 acres, 1979. One fun fact about this piece, it's the present-day location of the Reynoldsburg City Schools bus garage. But just as the city of Reynoldsburg was starting to build its own collection of common areas lying in neighboring school districts, the suburbs surrounding Columbus were about to find out that common areas were no laughing matter. That's next in How the Reynoldsburg School District Got Its Shape, Part 9. Thanks for watching.